Did you start?
It's starting. It's starting.
All right. Do we need a reintroduction?
Probably so.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. It's been,
I think we did our last podcast in February.
I don't even know if we did a podcast in February.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
So what's this podcast all about?
So here's the deal, everybody. Welcome if you're joining us to the Real Talk with Matt and Carrie podcast. This is an attempt for us to kind of come together, have some conversation with one another, sitting across the table, looking deep into one another's eyes. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a beautiful face.
Thank you.
But the goal is for us to share with you, our listener,
The one. Yeah. Some wisdom.
yeah, some wisdom, some
Lessons
things
learned.
Lessons learned. There we go. But you gain wisdom from learning lessons,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I know in the past we've had some questions, so we're going to try to hit some of those over the next few Mondays. We're going to do our Monday morning.
Monday morning.
It's gonna be our time.
Kind of just a time together where we're going to.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about, any other things that you guys want to talk about. But we're just going to kind of talk and take, 15, 20 minutes
Right.
on a live Facebook moment and talk. And honestly, what we want to talk about today is making your marriage work post-quarantine, because what we found here the last couple of weeks is it's been more difficult to be happy in our marriage
Yeah.
than it was before.
Well, and not only us, I mean, we have recognized that, but also just people that we're hearing from kind of struggling to stay connected, which is kind of crazy because the only person you've been connected to the last 4 months. But it's been a lot of connection
It's been a lot of connection.
and a lot of stress.
Speaking of connection, though, let's time out. Let's
Okay.
pause for a minute.
All right.
And if you're watching with us this morning, why don't you go ahead and share the video and let somebody else know that some people that you like or
People might want to wait till after they hear what we have to say
that's
and
true.
then share it if
But
you want.
share the video. Let people know that that we're going to be live. Here for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to take a minute right now and share our video.
I can't right now, but I will after because my phone is a camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your phone is a camera.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So let's just kind of dive into it, because we
Okay.
have been getting questions about making marriage work and what does it look like, and honestly, it's looked different for us. I mean, we have been we've been short with each other. We've been easily offended by each other.
Yeah.
We have been
Annoyed.
with each other. Matter of fact, this morning you're annoyed with me.
Yeah.
Like
And-
right
well,
now.
and you were annoyed with me.
Currently, you are annoyed with me,
That's true.
and I am also annoyed with you. So when we say that we're going to be real, we're really going to
Yeah.
be real.
But I think the first way that we have listed is really what you and I have been struggling to do today.
And what's that?
And that is to give each other grace.
Okay.
And I think that just looks like being kind to one another when it's easier to be annoyed.
Yeah, and I think, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you 3 things that we really believe that need to take place in the life of your marriage as you're ramping back up into really enjoying being married
Yeah.
and seeing your marriage thrive.
Well, I don't
Because-
know that we've been enjoying much of anything the last 18 weeks.
No.
I mean, there's
No.
been moments. We've had some good family time.
Sure.
We've had some good moments, but it's been hard to be happy
Yeah.
the last 4 months just because everything's been so stressful and uncertain and unclear. And so I think, you have to be able to give each other grace in that season, but not even realizing that you need to because
Yeah.
you're so focused on yourself right now, really, and how you're feeling and the struggles that you're having, I
Yeah.
think it's been hard to give grace to one another.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. The reason that it's been so difficult is because of the uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of things you can plan for, you can prepare for, and all this, but we couldn't plan for this. We
Right.
could not prepare for this, and so there's so much uncertainty taking place on this inside of each of us
Yeah.
that it causes me. Really, ultimately, what it causes me to do is be selfish.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking out for me first, even in the midst of this marriage, or even parenting, where I'm supposed to be so selfless
Right.
and thinking of you and honor, preferring you. And so it really gives me a hard time giving you grace.
Right.
Right.
Well, and
I
when-
want grace from you.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to give grace.
Well,
And
when
so,
you feel annoyed or you feel mad, thinking about it from the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, why am I annoyed, or why are they feeling annoyed? How can I give grace instead? Like, thinking about, okay, so if I was annoyed with you for not helping more around the house,
for
an
instance,
example.
Yeah. Just
You know, but then I can think, in order to give you grace, I could think, okay, well, he's got a lot on his mind. Maybe I just need to ask him instead of assuming that he knows I need help.
Yeah.
And that's something that is very gracious towards one another, is clearly communicating expectations, which we've talked about.
We've talked
in
about that
past
before on
ones,
the
but
podcast.
even
Maybe
more
we
now,
should talk about that again here.
clearly communicating, hey, I need help, or even just giving grace is also, I think, clearly communicating how you're feeling,
Yeah.
rather than just being angry or being grouchy or being short.
Yeah. And giving grace is also giving sex.
Okay, well, that's later on in the podcast.
Oh, okay.
We're losing time.
And we're losing viewers. So praise the Lord.
That's probably gonna
number
lose our women
Yeah,
viewers.
everybody's gone. Like, just signing off right now. Hey, listen, we're talking about 3 things that can help make your marriage work post quarantine. Number
Right.
1 is grace. Number 2,
Space.
space.
Giving
Space.
each other space.
Listen, we're all used to having some personal space,
Yeah.
even those of us who, we're going on 20 years that we've been living together. Well,
And
19.
5 years. Well, actually, we've worked together.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had other jobs. You've had other
Oh,
jobs.
boy.
But really, working together also.
So I
for
say,
years.
we say all that to say we've lived together for a long time. We've worked together for a long time, but we've always been used to still having some space. Like, for instance, yesterday you wanted to ride to church together, and I was like, oh man, I didn't really want to ride together because I wanted some space.
But you didn't say that.
I didn't say that, so I didn't communicate it, but I also wasn't upset about
No,
it,
you
right?
weren't.
So anyway, what I'm saying is, in this most recent season, the last 18 weeks for us, that we've been kind of quarantined, that we haven't been doing things in person necessarily.
Right.
We aren't used to getting the space
Yeah.
that we've had.
Yeah.
And so we've got to reacclimate to giving each other space. Like,
Yeah.
you like your times in the morning, and I try not to touch that.
Right.
Right? So talk about it.
Yeah, I just think it's being mindful of, and it goes back to, in honor, preferring one another, which is what the Bible talks about, but really saying, okay, I know that you need some time by yourself, so I'm going to allow you to have that time. I'm going to take the kids, or I'm going to tell you to go for a walk by yourself.
Yeah.
But just being mindful of the fact that you need your own time still, that
Yeah.
we just haven't been getting. Whether it's maybe you like to take a bath, or maybe you just want to go in your room by yourself and take a nap. This is one thing you like to just go and lay down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like this at other homes, but it is like pulling teeth. If we go somewhere alone, it's like the kids have a radar.
Yeah, like we don't see them for hours. And then
Hours.
all of a sudden we're like, you know what? I could use
I'm gonna
20 minutes of
I'm gonna go lay
downtime.
down. I'm going to try to take a quick nap.
And they're like,
And it's
knocking
like,
on the door.
It's like this.
Like, come on, man.
Can I take a shower? I don't care if you take a shower. You're 15. Go take a shower. Like, you don't have to ask my permit.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they need your permission to get a snack. They hide snacks. Why
tell
are
the
you
people how
asking
you
now?
really feel.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
Give me some space.
Guys.
But what we could do for one another is to kind of be the blocker.
Well, and
You know what I
you
mean?
actually do a really good job of this. So one thing that I like to have is some downtime in the afternoons. And so what you do is you really commit to making sure that you are running to pick kids up. Like the ones, they need rides, they need this. And so what that does is give me like 30, 45 minutes where at the office everybody leaves, I'm kind of able to have some
Right.
space and some downtime. And so I really appreciate that about you.
So it might be like doing something for the other
Right.
person to give them space.
To help create
Yeah.
space for them.
And not being angry that they need space.
Yeah.
Because
And-
we all need space right
Absolutely. And I think the bottom line is, guys, what the one thing that you need to remember that we all need to be just kind of thinking about and remembering is in honor, we want to prefer our spouse, okay?
Right.
And so just let's remember why we got married, the way that we
now. Why
value
did we
each
get
other.
married? Do you remember why?
I remember why I got married. And I remember why I will create space. Because I want unspace later.
Unspace later. Okay.
Yes.
Number 3
Okay, here we go.
is intimacy.
Intimate.
Give each other intimacy.
Yeah.
And that looks like not just sex.
No.
But hopefully you're still having sex with your spouse.
Please be having sex, guys. Please.
Why though?
Because what it does is it creates that connection that needs to be there. Because sex is not only physical,
Right.
it's emotional, it's spiritual. It is the most important part of a marriage,
Right.
okay? And it's got to be consistent. It's got to be talk about some of these people are
Yeah.
listening for the first time. They don't know about the 72-hour rule.
Yeah,
Talk about
and
that
this
for a
is-
minute.
and I think-
I think it's important that you talk about it
Yeah.
and not me because
Well, because
you know.
Yeah, because you would have the 12-hour rule.
yeah,
The
yeah.
72-hour
There's
rule.
nothing wrong
and,
with
and
that.
I don't like the. And we
I
do call it a
know,
rule,
I
but it's
know.
not a rule because obviously there's times and seasons for this. But the most important thing, so the 72 hour, it's that every 72 hours you should be coming together. But it's so that you are coming together, so that you're being close, so that you're being intimate, so that you're reconnecting. Because the longer you go without that connection, the more disconnected you feel in your soul and in your spirit. Like if you go so long, it's like, man, I miss that connectedness that we crave as humans. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, we're not talking.
Yeah.
We're not. And so it's not just about sex, but it's
Yeah.
also about communicating.
Right, and that's the thing that I would say, like, if you're, husbands are like, yeah, 72-hour rule, they're sharing this with their wives
Right.
now,
And they haven't had a conversation with their wife in 6 days.
And so what I'm going to say is, husbands, wives, because it's not always just the husband that is the
Right.
more physical.
No, that's true.
But if you're that more physical person and you have an expectation there, then I would challenge you to be the person then that initiates like, hey, I'm going to do the dishes. Or like this morning, I took out the trash.
That was so
You know why?
nice.
Because you asked me, you communicated clearly yesterday. You said, hey, I really need you to take responsibility for the trash inside because our teenage boys,
They don't do it.
they don't do it. They don't do it.
It's fine.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Yeah.
So what you need to do, if you're the one that is expecting like that physical touch or that type of thing, then you need to initiate the words of affirmation. You need to initiate the acts of service or the
Yeah.
gift giving or the other ways that that the other spouse feels loved,
Feels loved and connected.
and connected.
Because I think that's the thing that we have to.
Intimacy is about connectedness.
It is, and I think that's what we have to acknowledge, that we are in a season right now in our culture where people are feeling more and more disconnected in every area. And so if we don't do what we can do to make sure each other are feeling connected in our marriages and in this relationship, like right now, you're not even looking at me. I'm wondering what's going on.
I'm responding to some
Okay,
comments that
so
we got.
should I talk to the
Yeah,
camera?
keep
Okay.
talking.
So because you want to feel that connection right now, that it's so important to be intimate with each other and have communication, and also communicate about being intimate. Like, what does that look like for you? What do you need from your spouse? If you're not willing to tell them that, I'm a firm believer that if you are unwilling to communicate with your spouse, you cannot expect to have a good marriage.
Yeah, that's just the bottom line.
And it's hard. I understand that it's hard, and it takes somebody being vulnerable. And I think that's where sometimes we miss it, is is that initial step of vulnerability and saying, I need to communicate something with you that's hard for me.
But that goes back to the in honor, prefer one
Right.
another, because if I am preferring myself, I'm not going to be vulnerable.
Right.
You know
That's
what I
true.
mean? But if I prefer you, then I will be vulnerable. I will engage in that conversation.
And finding a good
humble
time.
myself. Yeah, humble myself and say, you know what? It's not about my pride. It's not about me protecting myself. Because a lot of the time when we don't engage in those deep and intimate conversations, it's because I don't want to feel stupid.
Right.
Right? I don't want to feel like I'm needy, or I don't want to. But guys and gals, can I tell you something? Like, we're all emotion. We're 3-part beings, okay? We're body, we're soul, and we're spirit, okay?
Right.
And our soul is that piece of us that is our mind, our will, and emotion. So we all think things, we all make decisions, and we all feel things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we've got to be honest with it. And what we've learned, especially as American men, is it's not okay to feel. And so we try to protect and guard and are prideful. But the reality is, we just are acting like little, really hurt little kids. Ultimately is what it boils down to. And so, listen, be vulnerable with your spouse.
Yeah, you have to
And-
create a safe space
Right.
here. Man, if you're missing that safe space in your marriage, that's a hard place to be.
It really
so
is.
maybe that's your first step, is just making this place a safe space by starting to communicate that you need this to be a safe space.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. You say, I need this to be a safe space that I can communicate.
And that's something that we can talk about here in the future, is creating a safe space in your relationship.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are with us now and you're like, well, how the heck do I do that? The first step is this: committing to vulnerable language, like, hey, I need from you
Yeah.
this space. Okay?
I feel this way,
Right.
and this is how I need to move forward.
So let's make a note of that. We should do that in the future, because we're getting to the end of our time.
Yes,
because
we
again,
are.
we do not want to take up a bunch of your time, guys. And hey, we're not here trying to pretend that we are experts by any regard. But
Nope.
we certainly do have some experiences that we just want to share with people.
Yeah.
And
we're learning.
And one of the things that we're navigating right now is, how do we make our marriage really work post-quarantine?
Yeah.
How do we come from a season where we've seen each other, we've been around each other,
We've been stressed. We've
we've
been
been
anxious.
stressed, we've been anxious, we felt overwhelmed, like we don't have the answers, and like we really might fail. And so how do we make that work with one another on the heels of this? And
Right.
and so we
Hey,
think that you give each other grace, you give each other space, and you commit to intimacy.
Yeah.
And that's conversation and physical intimacy.
Right.
Okay? And you never get intimacy without intentionality. So be intentional in conversation. Be intentional in those things.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It is a privilege for you to be with us. We can't wait to see you. We'll be back sometime mid-morning next Monday.
And you can catch up on our podcast, not just the Facebook video, but our podcast on iTunes, right?
iTunes.
iTunes
Yeah.
podcast, Real Talk with Matt and Carrie.
Yeah.
And hey, babe,
Yeah, girl.
thanks for taking out the trash.
Thank you for what.
For
Yeah.
taking out the trash.
Thank you. I love you. See you, everybody. This has been Real Talk with Matt and Carrie. We'll see you
Boom.
soon.